Hi, my name is Jackie, and we are part of Back to Basics with the Essentials. You can find us on Facebook. We are working our way through an education series on essential oils and vitamins and minerals. Today I'm going to be talking about vitamin D, and I'm really excited to do that. Most of you know vitamin D as the sunshine vitamin, and it's a really amazing, simple concept, but it impacts our body in powerful ways. So I'm really excited to share with you a little bit of just basic 101 knowledge on that. Little disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. I've never studied in medical school. The reason I have a passion for all of this is because I've had some impact in my own life. And so I'm like you, I have questions and I want to know the answers. So I do a lot of reading. And my goal here is not to replace any advice your doctor's given you, just to empower you with a little bit of information so that when you do go and you partner with your doctor, you have some knowledge as to what you're looking at on your blood tests and some knowledge on the questions maybe that you want to ask them. Okay? So let's jump in. What is vitamin D? Vitamin D is a fat soluble in our body that the sun actually can help produce. So it helps the absorption of calcium, iron, zinc, magnesium, and it's incredibly important. So we're going to talk about how you know if you're deficient, what the quantities are that you should be taking, what the quantities in your blood test should be, and a little bit about how it's made. I'm going to do some rating here, so bear with me. It's really important to me that I give you all the accurate information. So first I want to show you my actual blood test that I had done. And the reason I want to show you is so that you can kind of see on paper a measurable tool on how they look at vitamin D. On a blood test, the range is from 0 to 100. It is pretty agreed upon on multiple sources, and I used the Vitamin D Council, WebMD, Mayo Clinic, and a few others online to do research. But it's pretty agreed upon that they want you between 50 and 70 on a blood test. Some doctors would argue that they want you all the way up to 100, and that would be something you could individually discuss with your doctor. My rheumatologist wanted me close to 100. So, but everybody agrees across the board that it needs to be above 50. So if you have a blood test done and you're below 50, you are deficient. My blood test here, that was done on February 13th, 2014, I was at 42. And then March 25th, about 5-6 weeks later, I was up to 49. And then about 6 weeks after that, I jumped up to 58. And I'm going to tell you how much I was supplementing here in a second. But that kind of gives you an example of how long it does take to progress along that chart. It's not something you're just going to take a D3 or a vitamin D and all of a sudden tomorrow you're at 100. It doesn't work that way. It's a very long process. It took me about 2 years. I started in the 20s and I ended up close to 100. It took me 2 years to get to that level. So it's something you got to be a little bit consistent and persistent on doing. So research shows that 32% of Americans are deficient. If you're an adult in America, you're deficient on vitamin D. Kids, shockingly, are at 50 to 70% deficiency, and seniors are at 95% deficiency. We are doing something wrong. How do you know if you're vitamin D deficient? I'm going to read some of the signs that they listed through the research I had done. Chronic pain, muscle weakness, magnesium deficiency, impaired immune system, high blood pressure, or sad feelings. If you have anything on that list, I highly recommend that you go and get a test done. Vitamin D is unique. It is the only vitamin that we can produce in our bodies. C, for example, comes from fruits and veggies. So we all know an orange is vitamin C, right? So D is unique. It's produced in our bodies, and it's the only one that converts into a hormone, which is kind of cool. And what does vitamin D do? It regulates calcium. It helps with the absorption of everything I mentioned at the beginning, which is calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphate, and zinc. It also maintains healthy bones and teeth. It protects against multiple diseases such as cancer, diabetes, and MS. So I think we can all agree that D is important, right? It's simple, but it's important. And it also manages calcium in the blood, bone, and gut, and helps communication in the cells. How does vitamin D get converted from the sun? I've always wanted to know that. If you're like me, I like questions, I like answers. So what happens is the sun hits the epidermal layer of your skin. And the epidermal layer has like a natural cholesterol that, and it's called 7 something something something. You'll have to look it up. And it's that cholesterol is produced in our gut from our diet, from what we eat. And so the sun hits it, and then it sends that into our liver. Our liver converts it to something called 25-OH. So when your doctor's actually doing the blood test, they're checking your 25-OH levels. So it goes into our liver, converts into that. Then it gets transferred into our kidneys, where it's turned into a hormone that then can be used in our bodies. Really, really cool. There are some components that impact the absorption. There's a few that I'm going to list off here. Skin pigmentation is an issue here. If you're light-skinned like me, for example, and I'm in New York on 4th of July, and I'm standing outside for 4 minutes, it's a little math question for you, I'm going to get 1,000 units. IU stands for international units. It's how they measure. I'm going to get 1,000 units of vitamin D. However, if I'm a dark-skinned person and I'm standing in New York on 4th of July, it's going to take me 16 minutes to get the same amount of vitamin D in my body. January, forget about it. It takes 4.5 hours if you're a dark-skinned person. So it is hard to get vitamin D from the sun if you live north or south of the equator and you're not in an area where it's producing the right UV light. Weight also impacts. If you are overweight, what happens is you're in your epidermal layer, that cholesterol that needs to convert actually gets kind of stuck in that layer, and so it's not able to convert properly. They found that overweight people were 50% more deficient than people that weren't overweight. Another issue is age. After the age of 71 or 70, sorry folks, you stop producing it as well. You're not converting it as well. So there's a little bit different recommendations for our community that's over 70. And then, of course, sunscreen. I am a stage 2 through 3 malignant melanoma survivor, so I am a sunscreen fanatic. I believe in sunscreen. I avoid tanning beds, so I'm very pale. But sunscreen has pros and cons. You can do your own reading on that. It does block the B UV light, which is what we need for our body to convert the D, which could explain why I was deficient. I avoid the sunshine. How much should you be taking, and what kind of vitamin D should you be taking? So now that we know that we need to be between 50 and 100 on a blood test, and we also know that it's going to be challenging for us to get it from the sunshine because a lot of us, work inside, or kids nowadays aren't getting out in the sun. So it's a little bit challenging, or maybe you live in a location where it's overcast half of the year. So how do you supplement, and what do you supplement with? So there are 2 types of vitamins that are man-made now. There's vitamin D2 and vitamin D3. Most research will agree that D3 is the better way to go. And again, consult with your doctor on that. But D2, let's talk about how it's man-made. So the pharmaceutical companies found in the 1920s that if they took like mushrooms, for example, it's a fungus yeast, and they put it under UV light, that it would actually convert into D2. So that's where the D2 supplementations come from. That is patented by the pharmaceutical companies. D3, on the other hand, comes from shearing sheep, and they found that the natural cholesterol through a 4-stage process of shearing the sheep was something that they could tap into that was very similar to our bodies and make a D3. So sorry for my vegan vegetarian friends. If that isn't the route you want to go, you might have to do some food and supplementation on a different route. So D3, the Institute of Medicine recommends for ages 1 to 3, they say take about 2,500 IUs a day. For ages 4 to 8, it's 3,000. For ages 9 to 71, it's 4,000. And for age 71 and above, it's 800. So they do drop it down a little bit. Now, I obviously know and love doTERRA essential oils. If you don't have an oil-loving friend, I would love for you to join me. It's mydoterra.com/back-to-basics with the essentials. Love to have you join my team. But that's why I'm here. I love essential oils and what they do for our body. So doTERRA sells a vitamin pack. It's a 3-part pack, and it comes with these 3 bottles. So I flipped these over and I added up the number of D3 that is in these vitamins. And it's about 1,600 units if you were to take the recommended dose. And the recommended dose is 4 of each capsule daily. Now, doTERRA had studied the American diet and found that most Americans ate a certain way, and they made up a vitamin to make up the difference. So this has a lot of other stuff in it, and then we can do a series on magnesium and zinc and other things. But specifically on vitamin D, they studied that diet and they tried to make up a balance of what you were and were not getting. Now, 1,600 is a lot lower than the 4,000 that the Institute of Medicine recommends daily. But let's think about this. If you're the average American, you are getting some sunshine. You're also supposedly eating some foods that have vitamin D in them. For example, dairy, milk, fish. Serving of fish is about 646 units of D, and an egg is about 44. So they were guesstimating about what you should be getting in your lifestyle, and then they were making up a supplement for the difference. So not only do I take these daily, but I have a unique situation, and perhaps some of you do too. If you have any issues like Crohn's or kidney failure, or you have a gallbladder removed, which is my case, our bodies don't produce and manufacture D the same way. So lacking a gallbladder impacted my my production of D naturally. So I take the 1,600 and then I supplement to where I'm at 5,000. My personal belief and the recommendation of my rheumatologist was 5,000 units a day. Now, while I was building up on the blood test that we talked about, I was actually taking 10,000 units a day every single day for 2 years until I got to 100. And now they have me maintaining at 5,000. For most people, the 1,600 is really going to balance out what you're eating throughout the day, your sunshine throughout the day, and kind of make up that gap that's happening in your life. Okay, so that's my info on vitamin D. I really hope that you learned something new. I hope that you do some reading on your own. Huge believer in education and empowering ourselves with information. I hope you partner with your doctor. You'll have to comment below if you've had some blood tests done and where you're at. I hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.